Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Very nice to see you all here today. Today, we are going to go through sustainability reporting and carbon accounting. I am currently handling a company, Eco Sustainability Group, and at the same time, co-created, design, and teach sustainability reporting and carbon accounting. And it is so interesting to find out that someone like me are able to create a course, a module in the university in 2024 because sustainability subject has been around for the past 20 to 40 years. Why is that so? So if you look at the screen, mainly it's because there are many, many standards for ESG. And I purposely make it small because I can combine everything here. And everything is about 2 to 300 standards. How are you able to do that, man? 2 to 300 standards of ESG. Someone say, oh, Dr. Vincent, I only care about environment. Fine. So if it is under environment, there are about 100 standards. So same, environmental standards, there are 100 of them to keep up with. The moment you finish creating the course, you are wrong. The moment I created the course, it was almost wrong. And the moment you finish teaching the students, you are almost certain that the knowledge that they possess is outdated. And therefore, why even create the course, the module? And therefore, I get to create in 2024, early part of 2024. But it's also because it is moving at a very fast rate. So some of you are chemists, engineers, stronger than me, but you basically kind of know that some of these sustainability standards are analytical based. We look for evidence and we do research and try to find out. So to give you an example, there are about 258 gases in the IPCC, in the Governmental Panel for Climate Change, and those are considered harmful greenhouse gases. And therefore, 258 of them are being published and incorporated into published book every 2 to 3 years. And we call that AR. So in the AR5, you can see from here, one of the gases, octafluoro oxolane C4F80O. And this gas is used in like lithium sulfur battery and high voltage insulation, for example. They are deemed to be zero. They are deemed to be okay in AR5. But AR6, it is stated that it's 13,900 times more potent than CO2. That means if you do a carbon accounting or do a sustainability report, you used to have, let's say, 1,000 of that gas this year, you suddenly see that you have that 1,000 multiplied by 13,900. That's a huge amount of gas. Whatever effort that you have done in AR5 is like you have to change in AR6. Another one, HG30, was stated as 7,330 times more potent than carbon in AR5, but in AR6, oh, it is harmless. So because there are so many changes, it is so difficult to combine them and create a cost. However, things have changed. Somewhere along the line, you can see that they have grouped themselves into 4 quadrants. So the investors, they create their own group of standards. Corporates, they started to use a certain set. The thematic one, a certain specific interest group, they have come up with one, and the general one, like UN, SDG. So those, they have come up with another sets of standards. So we are kind of seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, but that's still not good enough. There's too many standards still. And very luckily, we found ourselves the mother of all sustainability standards. And we can see very clearly that it will be International Sustainability Standards Board, ISSB. ISSB came up with IFRS S1 and S2. IFRS stands for International Financial Reporting Standards, and under sustainability, S1 and S2 sets the standards for all sustainability reporting. And if you look at this and then you ask, oh, Dr. Vincent, is what you are saying, predictable? Is it intuitive? No, no. So today, 96% are still on GRI. I was giving you a prediction, but 96% are still on GRI. If you look at stock exchanges, like you can see from the graph yourself, most of them are on GRI, SASB, mainly for US, IR, integrated reporting, CDP, TCFD, and so on and so forth. And therefore, you can see very clearly that today they are all not on ISSB. And complexity, you can see from here, different countries have different preference for the sustainability standards. However, all will move to one. All will move to one, like one. And this is a prediction that I thought is quite useful, and because it's like today it is not. So if you say, oh, today is already there, everyone can see. No, today not many people can see. So for Singapore, it is already mandatory by 2026. So for 2025, you do it in 2026. So around 2026, you can see a lot of people struggling and scrambling. And that's the best time, I think, for us to look at how to support them. The Singapore ListCo, same thing, must report direct, indirect greenhouse gases based on ISSB 2026. And in Singapore, there are many legislation. But today, I'd like to talk about India. You can see from here that there are many discussions since July 2023. And in July 2023, we have a mandatory disclosure for certain listed companies, the super large listed companies, BRSR. So BRSR is very broad. It's a broader base. And most of the items in BRSR, I can't talk today, but basically they are similar to what we have today, except the carbon emission factor. And that part is following ISSB. And you can see top 1,000 listed company in India has already started this movement. When do you think it will come down to our company? And I suspect it's just a matter of time. No, it's not whether. So collaboration between BRSR, many people are starting to call for a convergence. Please use ISSB. Why do you reinvent the wheel? But I'm not in that discussion, but what I want to say that there are more and more people realizing the benefit of combining ISSB with BRSR in India. And what are the differences? So you look at the item here. So under greenhouse gas footprint, BRSR Principle 6, question 7 of the essential indicators actually are the same as ISSB, because ISSB is using greenhouse gas protocol. So it is the same, it's moving towards being the same. Scope 2, same thing, Principle 6 of question 7, and GHG emission intensity, Scope 1 plus Scope 2, they are about the same. And when are we getting all companies, listed companies? So we can see 2023 to 24, 150 has already been applied. And then 24, 25, 250 companies, 25 to 26. BRSR India has already mandated 500 listed companies, and 26, 27, 1,000 listed companies. After 2027, what do you think will happen to the SMEs, slightly smaller companies? It will come to us too. Okay, so how about other countries like Taipei doing the same thing? Malaysia doing the same thing, insisting ISSB as the sustainability reporting. Malaysia, Bernama came out with something called, Bernama is the newspaper. The Bursa Malaysia, the Stock Exchange of Malaysia, has already come out with something that is called NSRF, but they are similar to ISSB. So the prediction that I gave you today, ISSB will be the mother or the father of all sustainability reporting standards. It is starting to come true. And you can see around the world is coming here. So exactly what is ISSB, S1 and S2? So basically, ISSB came from the IFRS, International Financial Reporting Standards Foundation, and they created the ISSB in COP26. It basically combined many of the current sustainability standards into one, and they chose the easier to analyze, easier to calculate, easier to implement ones. And I thought that was a great move. And basically, it is part of the accounting way of calculating numbers, profit, incorporated it into counting carbon emission. So the characteristics are to making it comparable, verifiable, timeliness, and understandability. So time is quite standard in all financial statements and reporting, but we have to make it comparable, man. We have to make it verifiable because this is not profit. So it is about carbon emission. And just now I show you the examples of the gases. 1 year can be a lot, 7,330. The other year can be zero. So verifiability is very crucial. And then ultimately understandability. So the ability for ISSB S1, S2 to take on this role is like, it's not just out of a burst. It's not out of a sudden discussion. It is a long verification process and long discussion had taken place. So ultimately, it enabled the investors to assess the impact of all companies, provide a baseline for global consistency. It cannot be like India has one standard and US has another one, UK has another one. And so it builds on Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosure. TCFD, I really like it a lot. TCFD is a very well thought through process and framework. If ISSB didn't come out, I truly believe that TCFD is the mother of all standards. But ISSB is using TCFD, and therefore that disclosure framework is a very well thought through one. It will make it verifiable, understandable. Focus on information considered material to investors and decision makers, and therefore this is a very key concept in the ISSB. So today I will go through at a very fast rate because ISSB in my class is a almost 3-month class. It's a semester, and therefore I would like to just go through the introductory. So today I look at the 4 pillars in ISSB. The first pillar is governance. When we talk about governance, everyone says, oh, and Dr. Vincent is so simple to understand. But no, it's not like that. So I ask you all a question, very quick one. If the financial report has a problem today in the listed companies in India, who in the board of directors will go to jail first? So some people say CFO. No. So some CFO are not in the board. Many CFOs are not in the board. Some people say chairman. Of course, everything is chairman, but who before chairman and after CFO? So in Singapore, the audit committee chairman is the one that is responsible for financial and annual report correctness. But in sustainability reporting, who do you think is responsible? Don't know, man. So the general guideline is audit committee chairman, please continue to be the person responsible. However, in many countries, the Companies Act doesn't say that the audit committee chairman needs to have any sustainability knowledge. In Singapore, for example, Companies Act says audit committee chairman need to have financial knowledge. It didn't talk anything about sustainability. And therefore, my example to you just now about the 258 gases, greenhouse gases, do you think the board of directors actually know about it? So that is a problem. Man. So governance is very crucial. What and who are responsible? The processes, what processes to ensure the responsible person know and can do their job. So that's actually quite crucial. The second pillar is strategy. Many people say, oh, strategy is so easy. It's not. So there's a thing called internal carbon price. Some companies have it, many don't have. Some countries also have it. So internal carbon price is basically a monetary value assigned to any of the GHG gases as a mean for calculating future costs and making decisions. So if you make decisions based on an internal carbon price, you are better informed and hopefully you can make better decisions. It is also a requirement to do scenario analysis. What is scenario analysis? So everyone knows, so profit go up and down. No, no, no. It is about the temperature. So if you use a 1.5 degrees Celsius, which is like a bit mau, you can make a prediction of today and then increase the temperature to 1.5 degrees Celsius. But if you go to 2 degrees Celsius, do you know that many of the cars will just spoil within half their intended lifetime? So if you have cars, you have equipment, you have machineries that are under the sun, and it is 2 degrees Celsius, your machinery and assets will spoil within half the intended lifetime. Some people say much shorter than half. I don't know, man. But basically, it is true. The scenario planning requires looking at what if the temperature has risen to the next level. Some companies approach me and say, I want to do 3 degrees Celsius and 4. Certainly can, but it is a very negative scenario. Very, very negative scenario. Also, it's not fun. It's not fun at all. Next is risk. So 4 pillars are now on the third pillar. The risk is about CRRO. So it's like the climate-related risks and opportunities. We focus on both physical risk and transition risk. Transition risk is like, what if the government suddenly say, I don't buy nickel from your country if it is not sustainable. So I was in Indonesia, right? Like just a few days ago. They are one of the largest exporter of nickel and many heavy material. US, UK are imposing restrictions, and those are transition risks. So I think India, same thing, right? So you have huge export of many materials and some of them heavy minerals. And when the transition risk disclosure is being set, you need to include the possibility of some countries enforcing carbon tax. So export carbon tax. Double materiality, you need to look at both sides. And the fourth pillar is metrics and targets. So this is the most detailed pillar. So metrics and target includes scope 1, 2, 3, and includes the greenhouse gas protocol. How do we calculate? I will go into it slightly. So CRRO, basically I told you about transition risk, the policy, the legal, the technology. One day people will just say, I don't want to use petrol, I don't want to use fossil fuel, man. So yeah, there are different technologies that are being developed. So one of them can be hydrogen, for example. Market. So just now I talk about market, right? So some people choose not to use some of the heavy material. But physical risk is acute and chronic. So acute, everyone knows, right? If the temperature suddenly get risen to 2 degrees Celsius, you think it's 2? No, it's not 2. It's a range. So 2 can mean 12 degrees Celsius more. So if today you're 30 degrees Celsius, imagine 42 degrees Celsius. Some of your equipment may not last a very long period of time. So it can go 12 degree up, it can go 12 degree lower. But it depends. You don't know when it will come. The other is chronic, so it's slowly. What is the physical risk of the slow movement? Double materiality. So every time look at a decision focus on their financial and environmental social materiality. So both. Both. Next, the ability for us to look at ISSB is to focus on both S1 and S2 together. So IFRS S1. So it's a long course, as I told you, it's a semester. I'm trying to squeeze it to like 10 minutes. Right? So IFRS is from ISSB. IFRS S1 is like talking about the principles. S2 is the application, but these two needs to be combined together. So I give you a quick example of when I do sustainability reporting. I always start with boundaries. There are three types of boundaries. The first is organizational boundary. If you have a company, how much of that company's greenhouse gas is yours? It can be 100%, but if you have a subsidiary, how much is it is yours? You have a joint venture, how much is it? If you have a small portion of investment in the company, how much of that is yours? So that is a problem, right? And there are three ways to solve this: operational control, financial control, and equity share. So if you have operational and financial control, 100% of that is yours. But if you have an equity share, the percentage of equity is the greenhouse gas that you will have to write in your books or in your report. Operational boundaries, physical boundary, can read from here. Then scope boundary. Scope boundary is basically 1, 2, and 3. Next, data collection. I won't go through too much, but sometimes it is very important to have the auditors come to the site and actually do themselves, because primary and secondary can be very, very different. Next, scope 1, 2, 3 in a graphical form. So from here you can see, right, the scope 1 is what you burn. It's yours. It's like what you have and what you are emitting to the environment. Scope 2 is your purchase electricity. So it's like how much you use your lighting, how much you use in your electricity to boil water, to do heating and many other things, right? And the third is scope 3. Scope 3 in one sentence will be upstream and downstream. And this is, in many cases, the most difficult scope to handle. Some people say scope 3 account for 80% of scope 1, 2, 3 all combined. And therefore, scope 3 is so big, it should be like very focused on, but it's not. Why? Because it's so difficult to calculate. It's almost impossible. So scope 1, I just repeat, is direct burning. That's your burning. If you have a car, that car's emission is yours. There are protocol and processes to calculate how much emission is that car by distance and by fuel. The second is energy consumption. So the electricity that you purchase, your scope 2. 3 is upstream, downstream. You can count from here, upstream from the goods and services that you purchase to the leased assets, downstream from the transportation of your product to your customers, to the investment. So it's a huge, huge stream of people, entities that you have no control on or very little control on. So in greenhouse gas protocol, there are 15 categories, clearly stating each of the scope 3. And I was told that scope 4 is coming. I think it's a necessary evil, but scope 4 will be even more complex. Okay, now carbon tax. I would like to very quickly talk about why many countries will implement sustainability report. India carbon tax. India has already started a 400 rupee per ton of coal. So it's so small, it's almost like negligible. But there are higher taxes on fossil fuels like petrol, diesel. There are planned compliance mechanism that are coming up. There are different renewable purchase obligations. There are REC. I love REC. It's basically the ability to generate energy by yourself through renewable methodologies, and you like sell back. So it is very, very crucial. Energy saving certificates, again, quite useful. Internal carbon price, that's exactly what I mentioned in scope, in the pillar 2 just now. So in Singapore, same thing. We also have carbon tax, but we made it a little bit easier. It's just one tax, like one, $25. Last year was $5. This year onwards, it will be $25, and that is like 400% increase. Among the 400% increase, you can see that the trend will continue to increase. No? And some people are saying, "Oh, Vincent, you advocate for carbon tax. That's not good. Can we reverse it?" No, it was decided 2018. Also in Singapore, we started pretty fast. And overall, there are things that we can do, like reducing emission, like use offsets, use carbon credit to offset. There are different things that we can do. So carbon tax is something that I advocate mainly because the supply and demand. I truly always feel that the demand was driven by the supplier's price. And if we price it wrongly, the demand is wrongly increased, and therefore carbon tax is a necessary evil. But there are many other discussions we can take later. The other countries are implementing carbon tax too. They seems to have implemented it pretty well. British Columbia carbon tax in Canada was done 2008. It was a textbook case. It was really good, right? It was like reduced quite a bit of emission. The EU emission trading scheme is the biggest, the best exchange in the world, in my personal opinion. And it dropped like 35% emission. The Kyoto Protocol was started like COP3, and Tokyo Cap and Trade, Japan, launched 2010. I think Japan are doing all the really good things. So Tokyo's Cap and Trade launched 2010, now 27% reduction in terms of emission. California, so US has at least 4 states having this: Washington, Oregon, Philadelphia, and then California. California to me is the best. It dropped 10%, but it is the best. It's not so easy to do this. And when Trump president comes in, may or may not change. Suspect it will. Okay, so now another subject where a lot of people like me to talk about, but due to time, I can only squeeze them into introduction. So what are carbon offsets? They are basically quantifiable reduction in greenhouse gases where you typically measure in ton, and then they can be sold. Also, you are basically creating a reduction of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases. Carbon dioxide equivalent with the E at the back means 258 greenhouse gases. So sometimes when we say carbon dioxide, it's not carbon dioxide, it's 258 gases. But it sounds easier, simplified. So it's basically the sequestration of carbon dioxide equivalent, and then you are rewarded with your money on your effort. There are different carbon tradings in the world. You can see from here, like US, we have Washington, Oregon, California, and Philadelphia, and a few over here too. And China is pretty active, actually very active. EU ETS is the best in the world. Indonesia, we have some. Singapore, we have one. Voluntary carbon credit. So in the carbon economy, different countries has different way of calculating carbon, and therefore the price are also different. You can see from here, EU ETS is about 80. It varies from 74 euro to about 84 euro. So sometimes when it is end of the year, it gets higher because of the needs during the year. But China national ETS, for example, is pretty low in terms of price, pretty low. And carbon credit has got many types. If I generalize it, there are 2 types: the voluntary credit and the compliance credit. In compliance credit, the prices are usually higher. So EU ETS, for example, is compliance, right? If you don't buy, oh, it's not fun. You've got to pay penalty and tax, right? Compliance. And therefore, it is hovering between like 74 to 84 euro, US euro same amount. And voluntary is basically to buy and in a way offset, and you can put that into a sustainability reporting, but you can't do it for compliance purposes. And therefore, the price is low, average $2. But please don't think it's $2. So it's a very, very huge range. Also, the lowest $2. It's huge, huge range. So you can see from here, compliance, of course, is very useful. Voluntary, depends. So how do you buy? So there are carbon exchanges, the price pretty high. There are carbon credit brokers, price medium. And if you go to the project developers, helping the people who actually reduces carbon, I think that is the best. So in my personal opinion, support the projects, man. Support the projects that are really reducing carbon. That gives you so much benefits. Among them, of course, compliance credit. That means you can reduce tax, can reduce your penalty and all. But on the other hand, okay, you can also sell your goods to overseas, UK, US, Korea, Japan. Many of these countries already impose sustainability standards. If you reduce projects, you can fulfill many of the compliance, but you can also do a lot of good in your own sustainability reporting, do a lot of goods to the environment. So how to create a carbon credit? There are many processes. Among them, the design, MRV, monitoring, reporting, and verification, and then transaction. Also, there are three processes, and you can see from there. Ultimately, it is the retirement. Buyers retire the credit, meaning they claim the ton reduced, they remove, they claim that they have removed, and therefore the credit can no longer be traded. They are already given to the buyer. So the buyer can use that in different ways, like in the SR claim to be carbon neutral. Carbon neutrality, 14068 is a certification which I can certify, but I only certify when you actually completed the reduction and then buy carbon to offset it to zero. Or unless you can reduce carbon yourself, then of course, very good. Be very happy to certify you. So there are different ways. Some of them talk about tokenizing the carbon credit. Clearly can do. I take an example of blue carbon credit. Basically, there are 8 steps to design the carbon credit, and among them, using 14064 to start the baseline is very, very crucial. So whether or not the carbon credit can be sold to Singapore, so some people ask that question. Today, it depends on the Article 6.2 of the Paris Agreement. So if the Singapore country signed with India, Article 6.2, then the answer is yes. Before it is signed, cannot be sold through country. It requires a bit of time and work. So overall, I also want to ask, does anyone have this feeling that it's too little, too late? If you do, you are the same as some other people who ask me that question. They always ask me, Vincent, you are doing so many things. Are you able to guarantee that next year's summer won't be so hot? Are you able to guarantee that there's no more flood, devastating flood? And Vincent, you see, you do so many things, and you ask me to come up with a few $1,000. Are you able to guarantee that sea will not rise? Well, I say I can if you give me 1 million years. So 1 million years later, I'm sure all this effect will happen, but it takes time. And then they say, oh, you see, Vincent, it's too late, too little. Yeah, it's kind of true. So what do I say? In 1991, there is a volcano, Mount Pinatubo. This is an island near Luzon. And on 15th of June, the volcano sent a cloud of about 34 kilometers into the atmosphere. 34 kilometers. So please understand how big that is. Huge. Really, really big. In fact, the volcanic explosivity index was 6. That means it is second most powerful volcano eruption recorded in the history of mankind. But recorded history of mankind, not history of mankind. History of mankind, there are many others. But using VI to record is second most powerful in the recorded VI recorded history. So it's about 20 million ton of sulfur dioxide in the atmosphere. But the effect is that global temperature dropped by 0.5 degrees Celsius. Just how I talked to you about, we all do so many things to aim for 1.5 degrees Celsius and hopefully not reach 2 degrees Celsius because it's devastating. This one eruption caused the whole world temperature to reduce by 0.5 degrees Celsius. Now, of course, I never asked for volcano eruption. So many people say, oh, Vincent, you are asking for disaster. No, I didn't say that at all. In fact, what I actually say is that there are many things that we still don't know. There are many things that we still can do in terms of research and science, technology. There are so many things that we can do. What if we can use this example to create a certain type of reflective elements where we reflect back the sunlight away from Earth? Imagine how much cooler the whole world can be. Greenhouse gases, we reverse that. How do we do that? In terms of science, technology, research, we can also do carbon sequestration. We can absorb carbon and keep them on Earth. Carbon is a very interesting element. All of you should know. If we add enough pressure and heat, it turns into a different state and it can stay there instead of just gas. So overall, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say that in the world of sustainability, ultimately it is the real number. Sustainability has gone through so many decades of ups and downs and marketing, and people come in and say, my chairman planted a tree. I put that into my sustainability report, and therefore, I'm doing ESG. So those are not impactful. But going forward, it is all about the designing and engineering of real sustainability and sustainability report. And I truly believe that people like us who are more methodological, hopefully, and more definitive, we can make an impact. We can change the world. And it is about how much passion we have in this field. And to me, the reason of saving more human, reducing human disaster is a strong reason. So overall, I leave everyone with a quote: the sustainability era will not be driven by regulation, but will be by the people seeking transformation. It is all about us. If we just rely on the government to lead, I suspect that is a very inefficient and effective process. I truly believe all of you are people seeking transformation for the good of our environment, transformation to reduce human disaster. And with this, I thank everyone for the time. Take care.